Hello, a few days ago, this was on the internet. Titan and Pluto, one of Jupiter's, I think it's Jupiter's moons, exhibit the same mysterious spectral feature, and researchers can't figure out its origin. There's a spectral feature. What I want to say about it is that I think it's around about 5.1 micrometers. Um, what I want to say about it, and this is the actual paper. Unknown absorption feature at 5.11 micrometers on the surface of Titan and Pluto from James Webb Telescope spectroscopy. I was going to talk about this um, in that how Pluto nitrogen dominated by nitrogen atmospheres with a lot of methane, and this spectral line is some unknown molecule which isn't recognized. But there's only one problem with this. It's not been peer reviewed yet. So I'm not going to talk about it because the way science works, it's supposed to work by a paper, an idea gets sent out to unknown scientists. They then go through it, pick away at it, ask questions, try to find flaws in it, look for any errors. And it's only after it only gets published when all possible errors have been explained or have been, or there are no errors. Basically, if they can, it's things are only published if it's been confirmed as being original and error free. If there's errors in it, it gets sent back and they aren't published. So I'm not going to talk about this because it's interesting, but it shouldn't have been published. I've just written to actually an eminent professor I know saying that certainly since YouTube came along the last 10 years, so there's an awful lot of this sort of publishing going where people chuck stuff on the internet which hasn't actually been confirmed. It's not been peer reviewed properly. Like the science magazine New Scientist is not peer reviewed. There is a lot of rubbish in it. Same as Scientific America. You have to look at proper chemical, physics, biological research journals where they're peer reviewed. I'm familiar with this website vaguely, but I'm not quite sure who's behind it. But yeah, this hasn't been peer reviewed, so I'm not actually going to talk about it really. It's just there's obviously this 5.11 micrometers a line is showing up in spectroscopy, but it doesn't mean there's not a mistake in it somewhere. As I said, peer reviewing is the whole purpose of that is to weed out mistakes. So I'm not going to comment on it. It may have turned out there's a fault in it somewhere. What I decided to do was make this video saying does this work, but I thought I'd actually instead say that it's not being peer reviewed and everybody should take this with just as literally whatever. The old phrase is with a pinch of salt. I wouldn't even do that. Just ignore it because it's too early. If it gets published, once it's published in a proper, if it gets published in a proper reputable journal, whether it's Nature or Science, which are proper reputable journals, or some more obscure one like chemical essays or something, or physics, published in some proper journal. Even obscure journals can be just as important. I've heard various Nobel Prize winners say that you shouldn't judge scientists even by the journals they publish in, because often people say I published in Nature, published in Cell, but they can't tell you what they've done, what they've discovered. There's too much. This has been criticized in recent years by a lot of Nobel Prize winners because they get a lot of publicity, particularly mainly. That too many people go on about what journals they published and what journals things are published in, where instead of talking about what they discovered. And so a lot of the more obscure journals often take a lot more interesting ideas. And sometimes some of the most famous discoveries have been published in very obscure journals because nobody understood them at the time. So yeah, this is it's interesting, but that's about it really. It may turn out to be wrong, so just have to wait until it's peer reviewed and see what happens. Anyway, yeah, there's like you shouldn't. There are often more interesting research goes in more obscure journals like chemical physics reviews or physical I can't think of names, but the main the main the most I suppose the most well known journal names are Cell, Science, Nature, but there are dozens of journals, and often more interesting stuff, and sometimes even more revolutionary stuff gets actually put in the journals which are very unread or very few read, a lot more obscure. So yeah. Anyway, I've when I published my degree grade survey 10 years ago, that went into the biologist, so nobody else would take it. So anyway, that's all I want to say about that. I wouldn't get excited over this at all. It's um, when the to create no when neutrinos were observed to go faster than the speed of light at CERN about 10, 15 years ago, it turned out that a lot of the employees at CERN were very upset at the director speaking out like that. It turned out that they weren't going faster than the speed of light. There was actually a loose plug in the back of some circuit board. There were thousands of circuit boards probably at CERN. Back of some circuit board, the plug was slightly loose. When it was pushed in properly, um, the result came back speed of light. So this may well have an error somewhere. I thought, wow, when I first saw it, but then when I realized it was not peer reviewed, it's kind of put a damper on it. So anyway,